Last week we showed you some of the retrofits and upgrades that Grand Design installed into our RV, the 410TH, that's this guy. But before we hit the road in it, I had a few projects that I wanted to wrap up, and I'm going to cover those today. Be sure to stay till the end of this video because I have a super special announcement that you might be interested in. But let's not dilly-dally, let's jump right into the projects. So at some point, I don't know when or where, a chunk of our skirting came off here. I think from Grand Design back here, it must have broken off. It looks like it's on the front. Maybe it came loose and started flapping and broke right off. I don't know when it happened. I didn't hit anything this time. It wasn't me, but it's got to be fixed. The day before I was going to do anything with this skirt, I know I needed black screws, so I went ahead and prepared some just by spraying some in black paint, letting them sit overnight. Now, I wasn't sure what to expect when Grand Design sent this replacement skirt. I thought maybe it would be set for our RV, but it doesn't make any sense. As you might imagine, they've got one big triple axle skirt that they put on every RV, then they cut it for that particular RV. So while this is a super simple project of just taking it off and putting it back on, that's going to be the most challenging part, is getting just the right length on this. Luckily, we didn't lose the whole skirt, so I was able to take the piece that we had, take it off, and just lay the old piece right on top of the new one, and then use a utility knife to score exactly where the cut needs to be. I pondered how I was going to cut this, and then I decided that the Dremel tool was probably the easiest and cleanest option. By the way, if you don't have a Dremel tool, these things are great for a lot of projects. I did make a test cut on the old piece first though, just to make sure it was going to cut it okay and not split it or burn it or do something strange. Seems to be doing a pretty good job. Once I got it cut, I took the edge piece off of the old one, put it on the new one, and I was ready to attach it. However, instead of just screwing the screws through the plastic, I was a little bit worried about it splitting, so I did take a 5/32 drill bit and pre-drill my holes in here so I wasn't going to come with any splits. And with all that prep work done up front, it was super easy just to screw it right into the old holes. Easy peasy and done. For this next one, we're moving up to the basement. Now, if you followed us for a while, you might know that one of the first projects I did on this RV was to put a physical switch in so that we could turn off our front cap lights. In our old 397, we had one switch that operated the bottom, one switch and the one control panel that operated the front, and we could control them separately. However, in this RV, they're on the same circuit. So I put a physical switch in there because we like to leave our underbelly lights on, but not our front cap lights. That can be a bit obnoxious to leave on all night. But one of the things that Grand Design fixed while we had it in there, and I forgot to mention this last week because I forgot about it, was that our LED lights had gone to just white. I didn't know why, but I just hoped they would fix it, and they did. But they did it by replacing all of the LED strips on the bottom and on the front cap, and of course they had to wire those in. And when they did it, it somehow messed up my switch, so I had to figure that out. That turned out to be not difficult at all. All I needed to do was swap the hot lines from the bottom and the front, move those over, and my switch worked. Right here is my line for the RGB that feeds both the front cap and underbelly through these two wires. And I believe right now I've got it wired. These lights are on. That switch fell off. Those should still be on. And front cap lights are off. Now, flip my switch to on. Those are still on under there. The front cap lights should be on. Bingo! If you're wondering how this switch is in there, I'll put a link to the old video, but it's really simple. You've got 4 lines on an RGB circuit like this for the lights. 3 of them, one is for each color, and the other one is your 12 volt. And all I did was I put a switch on the 12 volt line for the front cap lights so we could shut those off. While I had this wall down to work on that, I wanted to tackle a really easy project. Well, it's easy with the wall down, but taking the wall down is most of the project, so it was easy to do this while I had that up there. I've always wanted a power strip on that wall. There are so many times I want to plug in like my one wheel to charge, or our e-bikes, or something else up in there, and I always have to use the outside outlet and then run the wire in. So I wanted a power strip on that wall, and this was actually really easy because behind that wall there is an outlet. Now that outlet is there and designed just to power the central vacuum system that we have. We hardly ever use that, by the way, except when we're using the flow bee to cut daisy. I just use a little extension cord and a splitter. You'll see that I've already got my DeWalt on the wall there. I don't know why I didn't put a power strip in at that time, but it's super simple. Just mount it on the wall there. Now, when I need to plug something in, it's been so convenient already just to be able to plug something in right there. This is mounted. This is mounted. This line feeds this vacuum as well as something else. Oh, this thing is plugged in down there. Before we move on to the next project, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Camco. Now, we've been using Camco products since we started RVing way back in 2017, and they have never let us down. With summer camping season right around the corner, Camco's got all the gear you need for your camping adventures with some really cool products they're debuting in 2025, some of which we are using already. Their Taste Pure water filter delivers clean, safe drinking water and is super simple to set up. You can see I even have some quick disconnects on it. Even though we have an onboard filter system, we use this to help make that last longer. We have also switched to this Evo Flex 2 drinking hose. Super lightweight, it's kink-free, it stows away super easy. Love this on camp breakdown days because I just jam it in here and go. Whether you're brand new to RVing or you're a seasoned camper and been on the road for years like us, Camco's innovative and durable gear helps keep you ready for the road. Swing by your local Walmart or check out Camco's Amazon storefront to grab these essentials and get better equipped for an amazing summer camping season. Now back to the projects. So let's talk about these propane tank straps. Now, these things are effective, but they're a little bit flimsy. You know, the little piece is just kind of crimped onto an end piece down there, and it flops around and comes off, and you got to put it back on and try to crimp it down. We've had ours fall off several times. I've seen online that several of you have had that problem as well, so I was looking for a better solution. I've got two solutions I'm going to try here. Of course, this is just a replacement standard band. Feels like it's about the same thickness. So worst case, I'll put these back on, or this style back on. I also got a strap style, but the big thing is going to be this mounting plate. If there's going to, I need to make sure there's enough room between the tank and the door to have this mounting plate, because this is what the strap goes around. I don't know how I feel about a strap versus a clamp. The clamps, these clips, even though they're a little flimsy, they do kind of lock down. This has got a pretty beefy gripper thingy there. Oh yeah, it's not going anywhere. All right, I'm gonna give these a shot. These mounts came with some strange expansion screws as well as some wood screws. That didn't work for us, so I just used my own self-tapping 1/2-inch screws. And since we have 40-pound tanks instead of the standard 30, I mounted the top bracket a little bit higher than the original strap. Now, I wasn't sure how these were going to do, but we tested them out. We've traveled for about 1,000 miles now across some really crappy roads, and they have held up well. I've checked them, at rest stops, that they have not slipped a bit, so we're sticking with these. These have not moved even a tiny bit. Still nice and snug. So moving inside for these last two projects, first up is a very simple one, and that's these lights that we have right here in the kitchen. Now, I mentioned last week when we had our RV at the shop while we were camping in the Sierra Nova that one of the issues they fixed was flickering lights. Well, they wouldn't really flicker. They would shut off for a while, and they would shut on and off, and they would just kind of come on and off whenever they wanted to. And Grand Design just ended up replacing both lights. But when they did this, I don't know if they're using a new model or if this is from a different floor plan or what, because what we see online is what we have now, and that was the original ones that are kind of geometrically shaped. Anyway, they had the can lights in here. We didn't really care for those. We really liked the older lights, so Grand Design sent us a pair of the old lights, and I installed those. This is super easy. It's 2 screws and 2 wires, and I just used a butt crimp. I prefer that over wire nuts when I can, but that was a super easy project, and these lights have been great ever since. One thing that we had in our Momentum 397TH that we really missed in this RV is a microwave oven that also doubles as convection. We really like that to be able to heat things up. It's so much better than using the microwave. It doesn't get meat rubbery and things like that. You don't have to bring out something else to do it. So when I saw several posts on Facebook talking about this microwave that is a convection slash microwave slash air fryer, I looked into it, took all the measurements, said, yep, that's going to work for us, and ordered one. You can find this particular model online at various places. I found the best prices to be at Lowe's. However, I haven't seen them carrying it in the store, so you do have to order it and have it delivered. And a little tip here is when you buy it, between that and your delivery window, keep an eye on the price. While I was looking at it, the price dropped $100. I contacted Lowe's. They dropped the price without messing with my invoice or delivery or anything. So just a little tip there. Right now, this thing is $549. We got it for $499, but researching these types of things, that's a pretty good price even at $549 or even $599. The installation was pretty straightforward. We do have a rear venting system in this RV. It's got a little flapper outside for the convection and the microwave to vent to the outside. Also, if you're using the range and you want to turn on the fan, because this is obviously an over-the-range model, it vents outside. So I had to do a little bit of work on the unit itself to take the fan thing out, flip it over, make a few changes. That was all in the instructions because it can be installed several ways, but it comes by default with it kind of facing inward and recirculating. So I had to switch that over. So since I am putting a new microwave in, I figure it's going to be a little bit different form factor. So I needed to get everything off that wall so I could use a little template that they give. Grand Design does put a metal plate between the microwave and the wall. So make sure you put that back up. So the way this thing mounts is you put the rear back edge, the bottom edge of the microwave into that, and then you crank it up like this, and then you put some lag bolts down into the top. So of course I used their template. I put the bottom brace on. Now I was super hopeful that I would rock this thing back up into place and my holes would line up. You know, maybe there's some kind of standard or something, but my hopes were quickly dashed, and I realized I was going to have to make some new holes. And I wasn't really sure how I was going to mark where those holes go, but I came up with this idea. I'm going to link this back up in here, and then I'm going to touch these to the top to get a mark. I've got some construction adhesive just dabbed on there, and that should stick and leave a mark, and then I know where to drill. I also got to mark this. All right, that worked. I got my marks right there and right there. So marking my holes, that little method of using the glue actually worked really well. However, when I saw where those holes were going to have to go, I wasn't super excited about that because, as you can see, the holes are going to be right on the edge of the boards or in between the boards, and I wasn't crazy about how that was going to be supported. So I came up with this. And I really don't want just a screw head poking down through that between the boards. I'd rather it go through the boards. But I can't really just take this whole thing apart and redo the wood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a hole saw to make a little bit bigger hole than I need. That gives me the advantage of giving a little bit of flexibility in where that screw head lines up. If it's just a little bit off, forward, back, left, right, I should be okay. And then what I'm going to do is I've got a piece of aluminum here that is 1/8 inch by 2 inches by 3 feet. And this I'm going to measure up directly with the holes and get this exact, so that even though I've got some wiggle room and flexibility in my holes going through here, this will be tight to the screw and it will distribute the weight all the way across both pieces of wood here. And that's the plan anyway. I think that'll be a much more secure situation than they even had before. I used a 3/4 inch hole saw to make my holes in the bottom of the cabinet. I also cut a little groove in the board for the power cable because that was rubbing there also. I cut my load distribution plate, that's what I'm calling that thing, is a load distribution plate. Anyway, I cut that down to size to fit in the upper cabinet, and then I used the microwave itself to mark where my holes were going to be. Then it was just time to mount it. I lost track. I think it was the 4th or 5th time. Finally got it. Nice and smooth and flush along there. Straight down here, not sticking out like it was. Up here, I've got my weight distribution bar all jammed up in here. So now you may ask, do we like the microwave itself? And we do. It's actually been really, really great. Now, we've always carried a Ninja air fryer, and we've been on the road now for about 6 weeks, and we haven't had to get it out once. It's been great. I've even made toast in this thing. Yeah, it's a bit overkill for toast, but it works, and I don't have to get anything else out. Last up isn't a project, but it's a special announcement. We're going on a cruise, and you are invited. That's right, it's a meetup cruise. Our friends Phil and Stacy from Today is Someday are putting together, so it's also not just us. It's also not just us and Phil and Stacy. It's actually 5 different channels. We have, of course, me and Tara and Phil and Stacy. We also have the New State Nomads, Howard and Caitlin, the Grateful Glampers, Charity and Ben, and Joe and Rachel, the 2 crazy campers. This cruise will set sail in March of 2026, so you've got a little bit of time. However, cabins are limited. This is a 7-day adventure. We're going to be doing fun things on sea days together. It's going to be a cool way to connect and hang out. So if you're interested, use the link down below and book your cabin today, and hopefully we'll see you on the high seas. Hopefully they're not too high. Anyway, that is it. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you next week.